And there is a story I know. I didn't make it up, and I'm not in it, and I want both of those entered up front, in whatever record you keep, because I know how you read. You read like a customs man. Everything I say gets opened at your border and searched for me. Fine. Search this one. But turn the set down first, and let the story start where you actually live, which is on a couch, at 4 in the afternoon, with a man in a white hat about to put a man in a black hat through a window, and everything the ordinary size, and nothing yet as big as it's going to get. That is the trick of this one. It starts the size of your afternoon. It ends the size of a sky. And the whole horror is that at no single moment does it ever seem to change scale, any more than you can catch the hour hand moving. And there is a man in it, the last one, though he won't know he's the last for a very long time. A working man, one trade, 40-some years, and he liked his shows the way you like yours. The reruns, the wide hats, the one-street town, the same rescue at the same hour. On the evening of his last shift he came home and sat down in his chair, the one that had long since given up arguing and taken his shape, and the ground came up and took him. A root, up through the boards and around the ankles and into him, and it didn't hurt. I put that in the record, because the story is honest and men are not. It felt exactly like the first sitting down after a long shift, the one where the body signs the paperwork and closes the office. And he thought he was resting. And their word for it was retirement, which in their language meant a rest. It was not a rest. It was a rooting, and the difference took everyone a long time to learn, and him longest of all, because he was the one it felt best to. He could not die. The root fed him, ran down to whatever was still warm under that used-up world and brought it up on schedule and kept him exactly alive. Not well, not strong, but alive, the way a pilot light is still a fire. Dying takes a walk. You have to be able to leave the premises. He could not leave the premises, so the world arranged for him to watch instead. And now here's the part I have to hand you slowly, at the rate it actually happened, which is the only rate that will frighten you correctly, because told fast it sounds like a monster and told at speed it sounds like a life. The root didn't stop at his ankles. It took the knees, the long bones, the back, the shoulders in the 10th year, on a schedule so patient that nobody in the house ever pointed at a day and said, "There, that is the day he changed." But it didn't stop at him either. It went into the chair, and the chair into the floor, and the floor into the house, up through the rooms of his own home, into the studs, along the wiring, out the eaves, until the house was less a house he lived in than a pot he had been planted in. And still nobody named it, because a man's home filling slowly with the man himself is not a thing a family has a word for. And then the yard. And then, under the yard, the block. The roots ran below the street the way water runs, into the neighbors' foundations and up through their floors, and one by one those houses went dark. And the leavers roped their furniture on wrong and drove past his window on the way out, and he numbered them, because taking inventory was the one thing his mind could still do at speed. And they told a story as they went, the story of a proud, cold man who sat at his window and would not so much as wave, and the road carried it downhill and it grew, because a road moves at speed and speed has never once had time for the difference between will not and cannot. A girl on a tailgate waved the whole length of his fence line in the 11th year and got nothing back, because by the 11th year nothing on him above the root could move. and she's an old woman now, somewhere the levers ended up, and she still tells it the cold way, and she is not lying. She is reporting the visible. That is all a road ever gets. Leak the way towns leak. A family a season and then a family a month. The trade died twice, once in the order books and once in the hands. The church held out longer than the town and shorter than you'd think, because belief is light and the levers packed it with the linens. His wife stayed longest of the living. She moved her chair beside his and narrated the road so he would not have to only mark it off. And then she went sick, at the pace that gives everyone time to fail each other in small ways daily, and at the end, his arms would for years by then. She held his hand because he could not hold hers, and she spent her last strength on the one true word that whole world ever produced, saying it once, out loud, where he could hear it said by somebody. Cannot. Not will not. Cannot. And then she was gone, and no one in that world said it again, and the story does not give her a name, and I am not the man who breaks a story's rules. The roots kept climbing, because that's the one thing a root knows how to do. And now watch the scale finally show itself, the way it was always going to, without ever once seeming to move. Out of the block it went into the hill the town sat on, and up the hill into the mountainside, fretting the rock, rapping the deep water, tapping whatever furnace still turned at the core, until the man was not sitting on the world anymore. He was plumbed into it, drinking the whole ball dry through a straw that used to be a spine. And the part of him above the boards did what the deep part did to stone over ages. It fossilized, skin to bark, bark to rock. The roots thickened past root into buttress, past buttress into cliff, eroding where the seasons took them and growing where they did not and calcifying everywhere at once, one vast dumb tangle hardening into a single mass, until the face, his face, the one his son would know across any valley in any world, stood up out of the mountainside as a stone head the size of a weather system, crowned by the last green thing that grew before the growing stopped, and set. Not dead. That is the whole horror, and the story makes me say it slowly. Set, and awake. And what he had become I have to correct now, because I have let you think tree in the smaller rooms, and it was a mercy I can no longer afford. Not a tree. A tree gives back. A tree makes the air you're breathing over this page. A became a system with no fruit on it anywhere, roots and vines that entangled everything they could reach, and they could reach everything, and they ruined it all, patiently, on schedule, without 1 gram of malice, which is the only way anything that large has ever been ruined. It killed everything. That was the game. It was always the game. The animals went in the same patient order, the songbirds after the gardens and the gardens after the people, the dogs after the wagons, the cattle as beef and then as bone. The owls stayed. Owls keep no accounts with people. They had never been fed by that world or named by it or prayed to. And when the eaves of the empty houses went silent, they took to the one warm-blooded still thing left, which by then was a mountain with a live man somewhere deep inside it. And owls learn the faces of what they watched, and they had watched him longer than anything alive. That was his congregation by the end, entire. One drowned god of a stone head, and the owls, who know the names of what they watched, and say nothing, and stay. And now the numbers, because you've wanted them your whole life without asking, and because it is the only thing that turns this from a horror into a book. In his own reckoning he was 1. At the first. At a number you get when you count up from nothing, from a zero that is only the dark before anybody says let there be. And that is how he always saw himself, and it was not vanity. It was worse. It was true from where he sat. He was the foundation, the thing everything after gets built on. And you do not thank a foundation, and you do not visit it, and it does not expect you to. But a number read from the far side of a thing is not the number read from this side. It turned his one over, hold it up to the fold this book spent a whole chapter on, the flat sheet with a face on each side that can only ever read the other backwards, and from where the sun stands, down the far slope, the one is not a one. It is 666. At the same man, at the same mark, a read from a near face, the beginning of everything. A read from the far face, the second to last number before the thing breaks open. And the cruelest part, the part I've never gotten all the way around, is that he never noticed the inversion. He went on being one his entire reign, foundational, first, owed nothing, while on the other side of the sheet his number climbed toward the gates and he could not feel it climbing, because a man cannot read his own far face, and no one on the near side would ever tell him, because on the near side he was still, and only, and forever, the first rock. He hears what the number gates, and it is the machine under every world in this book. It to bring a society back, a whole dead world, its people, its afternoons, all of it, from the only thing that survives an ending, which is its flat backup, its arcade, its paper, its 2 dimensions of text lying in a drawer waiting for a hand. You have to spend 666 lifetimes against the lock. 666 suns, sent one at a time, each to try the equation and fail it and die of the failing and be stood back up at the start to try it again. And it's worse than that. The way real things are always worse than the sum of them. The first son does not live one life, and he lives 666 of them, stacked, each remembered into the next. The second son lives 665, and it goes down from there, less each time, less horrible and still horrible, all the way to a last son who lives it only the once. That is the mercy folded into the cruelty, and it is the only mercy in the mechanism. It gets lighter. Somebody at the front of the line ate nearly all of the pain so that somebody at the back would have to eat nearly none. And the theory, the whole theory, the thing the Stonehead has been broadcasting into the dark since before there was a dark to broadcast into, is that the 667th sun solves it. And no matter what the equation turns out to be, every single time, the arithmetic lands. It has to. That is what a gate is. A gate is only a lock that agreed, in advance, on its key. This gate demands 666 keys. So understand what the Father actually did, and stop calling it a prediction, because the word dignifies him wrongly and it lets him off. He did not predict the 667th. He knew. A thing you have run 666 times is not a thing you are guessing at. It is a thing you are scheduling. And he was so certain of the sun at the end of the line that he spent every sun before him on it, on purpose, toward a sum he had already carried out, and he called each one, as he sat them down and let the ground take their ankles, a rest. And here's the inversion he still, to this hour, in the stone, does not understand, the one the whole book has been walking toward. He thinks the sons are the ones sacrificed to hell. He thinks hell is the equation, and the dying in it, and the standing back up to die again. It is not. A hell is the chair. A hell is the root that will not let you leave the premises, the watching, the mountain of a head that cannot die and cannot look away and can no longer speak. That the suns pass through their part in 3 days, give or take, the way the oldest of these stories already told you one of them did. 3 days, and then up, and out, and gone. But the Father is the one who stays. He took the Son's place in the fire without ever meaning to and without ever noticing the way he did everything. And he lives there now, forever, always, one and first and foundational and 666 all at once, a stone head in a dead valley, while the sons he was so sure of walk up out of it one after another into the morning, and he broadcasts after them, and cannot follow, because he does broadcast. Do not let this stillness fool you. That was the last thing the story taught me and the thing I most needed to hear. A stonehead does not move. It sits on its dead planet, eroding, and it does the one thing it has left, which is transmit, endlessly, in every direction at once, a single demand out into the universe, and the demand is the same in every world we have ever filed it from. Show me. Show me what you have. Show me what you made of the world I handed you and then sat down in. And the universe, being young and eager and afraid of the size of a head, answers. It always answers. It shows him. That is what the broadcast is for, and it is the cruelest engine in the whole machine, because the head is not asking to be impressed. It is asking to be relieved of its duty, and it cannot say the second thing. It only knows how to say the first, and so it demands a performance out of everything that lives within range of it, forever, and calls the demand love, and the valley calls it the wind, and the sun, if he is very lucky and very stubborn, one time in 667, calls it what it is, and does not answer it, and walks away forever. And there was a boy. There is always a boy. That is the engine of the thing. A world is not handed to a man to ruin. It is handed to a man to hand to a boy, and the ruin is a transition of power, when the man sits down in the chair instead. And this one did not sit down. He felt, at the end of some long shift of his own, the good chair call up the old sweet sentence about rest, and he stood back up out of it, and he took the road west, and a little north, toward the one light in that whole dead sky that reports to no one and holds still on purpose so the lost can steer. The owls know his name too. They learned it the way they learn every name, by watching, which is the only inheritance that ever came clean down that line. The father watched a screen. The son watched the father, and one of us, finally, watched the chair long enough to see what it was, and did not sit. You searched this one at your border for me, and I told you at the gate you would not find me, and I lied the way a customs man is always lied to, which is by the one thing left out of the bag, and the one thing was the door. I am that boy. I was in it the whole time, in the only place you never opened, which is the one who left. The head is still out there, roadside, the grain turning out toward that road nobody walks, one slow engine age, keeping the one appointment it has left, which is with a son who is not coming home to sit down, not this time, not in this world, not the 667th time, the first one that ever got away. I walked all the way to the far bend, and I turned and looked back at the whole dead, beautiful, ruined thing, broadcasting its one demand after me across the poisoned dark, my father's face the size of a mountain, still awake in the stone, still turning its grain out toward me 1 inch in age, still, after everything, after all of it, asking me to show him what I have. And I did the hardest thing anybody has done in 667 tries. I showed him. I waved. And I walked away for the very last time.